If you're familiar with Blizzard, it's probably because of the massively successful World of WarCraft. But before they changed the world of MMORPGs, they were at the heart of an earlier gaming revolution, the world of real-time strategy, or RTS games. Even WoW traces its lineage to Blizzard's RTS line of games, starting with the appropriately titled Warcraft. But there's another title that would take this nascent formula that Blizzard was concocting and turn it into a true global gaming phenomenon that's still alive today. This is the story of StarCraft. In 1995, Blizzard was a growing game company that found themselves with a huge hit on their hands. In 1994, they had released the strategy, combat, and resource management game Warcraft to surprisingly large critical and consumer acclaim. And luckily for Blizzard, this momentum showed no signs of slowing, with the newly released Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness already on its way to being the darling of video game awards for all of 1996. But Blizzard was not satisfied to rest on their laurels, and development quickly began on a new RTS series. Blizzard would use their experiences building Warcraft 1 and 2 to jumpstart development on a radically different RTS, this time set against the epic backdrop of the futuristic Milky Way. Using Warcraft 2's game engine as a foundation, Blizzard anticipated the game could fit into a one-year development cycle, and so they aimed for the hit to be released just in time for the 1996 holiday season. However, with the limited staff and the short time frame given, the team knew their goal should be a modest, more iterative improvement to the proven Warcraft formula. The team worked diligently preparing a demo, and in the second quarter of 1996, the team previewed their new game at E3. This early development version of the game received unenthusiastic reviews and was rightfully criticized for simply being orcs in space, or a reskin clone of essentially an existing Warcraft game. The game featured a similar visual feel to existing Warcraft titles, with hand-drawn sprites and a top-down view, and while there was nothing wrong with those design decisions, there also wasn't anything revolutionary about them either. Under pressure to continue growing their revenue after their successes with Warcraft, Blizzard knew they had to make a change, and fast. However, another project threatened to stop StarCraft in its tracks, and it came close to doing exactly that. In Redwood City, California, the Schaefer brothers, Max and Eric, were hard at work building their own visionary evolution in video gaming. With a budget of only $1.2 million, which was small even by 90s gaming standards, they were trying their hardest to make their new game, Diablo, a reality. But despite the visionary glimpses of success they had seen bringing Diablo to life, their budget and resources simply weren't enough to bring the game all of the way. However, Blizzard saw what Diablo could become and decided to make yet another gamble on the future of gaming. And in 1996, Blizzard acquired Condor Games, renamed them Blizzard North, and now, armed with all of the assets at Blizzard at their disposal, they plowed forward on development at full speed. Slowly, developers and assets from StarCraft and other teams within Blizzard were siphoned off to contribute to Diablo, and at one point encompassed everybody at Blizzard headquarters in one way or another. It wouldn't be until Diablo's launch at the end of 1996 that StarCraft would see the light of day again. The StarCraft project was entirely overhauled after E3, with producer Bill Roper stating this new game would be a drastic departure from the existing Warcraft formula. He compared Warcraft's two warring sides as a complicated game of chess, where StarCraft would be much different. Set in the 25th century in the distant Milky Way, StarCraft would allow the player to jump into a galactic war between three different races, each with their own advantages and disadvantages. This dynamic revolutionized the existing RTS concept by introducing an element of chaos, requiring a level of strategy and combat tactics that RTS games hadn't seen before. Visually, the game now diverged entirely from Warcraft's hand-drawn graphical elements, replacing them entirely with new rendered 3D assets. By early 1997, the team was ready to show off this new vision of StarCraft, and the critic response confirmed they had made the right choice. With the game's concept and feel finally defined, lead programmer Bob Fitch was given the order to adapt the existing Warcraft 2 engine to support the new StarCraft features. This included new concepts like cloaked units and fundamental changes like the isometric perspective view that's still iconic in RTS games today. However, as Bob looked closely at what the Warcraft engine could do versus what StarCraft needed it to do, he realized he would have to completely rewrite the game engine. So, that's exactly what he did. To quote Bob, "I took the list of things we couldn't do, like units that can move one direction while facing another, and I rewrote the engine so that it could do all of those things." Somehow, in 2 months, he had transformed the clunky Orcs in Space demo from E3 into a unique new experience that felt like a departure from Warcraft in all the right ways. And it wasn't just the technical team who seemed to perform miracles. Though the sounds and dialogue from StarCraft are an integral part of gaming history today, cobbling together those sound design elements was a challenge for Glenn Stafford. Without time or resources for a proper voice acting cast, Stafford eventually resorted to using his own voice for many sound effects, including the voice of the iconic SCV unit. And that great twangy guitar intro you hear every time you start up the game? That's Big Tuna, a band made up entirely of Blizzard employees. It would take close to a year to finish the game, but finally, in March 1998, Blizzard was ready to ship. Bob Fitch would later say they were hoping to sell about 100,000 copies at launch, but the game response was unlike anything the team could have expected. The game released to near universal acclaim, and within the first year, StarCraft sold more than 1.5 million copies worldwide. In the next decade, Blizzard would go on to sell more than 9.5 million copies of the game, and it remained one of the most popular online multiplayer games until the release of its successor, StarCraft II, in 2010.